Elections Canada investigators spoke to John McCulloch today.
I got the sense my calls were a lot like the other calls that they were investigating.
He's one of 31,000 Canadians who went to the agency with complaints of misleading calls in the last election. And the accusations keep pouring in from across the country.
I recall receiving an automated call that talked about a change in voting location.
John Gall also got one.
Directed me to a poll that wasn't on my voter card.
Stories like these have multiplied after it was revealed Elections Canada is investigating fraudulent calls involving the local Conservative campaign in Guelph.
What's alleged to have happened in Guelph is unacceptable. We want to get to the bottom of this.
Former Elections Canada Commissioner Jean-Pierre Kingsley says the scale of the allegations is unprecedented.
There's no way that one can have anticipated this huge number of people calling.
Consider this. In the 2006 election, there were 329 complaints, 500 in 2008, and until last week, 1,003 from the 2011 election.
The evidence is mounting that the 41st general election may have been hijacked by the most comprehensive electoral fraud in our nation's history.
The volume of complaints is so high, Elections Canada may end up calling in extra help, including the RCMP.
They've taken down the names and the contact information of every one of those contacts.
MPs and political parties have been urging the public to lodge complaints. The NDP is running ads. The Liberals are trying to raise money off the scandal. The Tories deny any wrongdoing. Although every Canadian who complains will be contacted, Elections Canada says it only investigates acts of intimidation and false pretense and doesn't probe annoying, repetitive, and calls of a partisan nature.
Because Mercer said something about them coming out of Edmonton, which would make more sense because that's in Quebec.
So how are we doing this?
Try and find something.
Who says it is a higher voter turnout?
Where Mercer got that information, because he said all the calls came out of Edmonton.
Yeah, when I brought that back.
34 riding.
What is the source value? Okay, so our national post says how many? 34?
Who's the author in there?
That one there is.
This is conflicting.
Mercer said Natalie's.
Okay, so
This person said that he actually went to his regular voting location. Regardless. Yes. It was correct and the call was wrong. So, yeah.
No one was actually prevented.
well, once you go to your voting location according to the automated call, and there's no polls there, like obviously you're gonna go back.
Swing other people's votes. Like if I was conservative.
Yeah, no, that's what I was trying to
It's not like it would fix the vote back, it would just change what they are.
People's perception of the back.
So are we voting?
You gotta look, that Nanos poll that just came out said that people have increased their support for the Harvard government. And it actually strengthened. Yeah, I think it might have gone up a couple percent. People on the poll, it's a Nanos poll.
Also, 34 riding seems to be the only number. I have 57 now. I'll just say something.
Okay.
So actually, that no.
And then they still continue to go to their proper voting station.
Sent out at the hours.
Ungodly hours.
Ungodly hours.
God never sleeps, okay?
Guys, you're making fun of me.
Yeah, like I don't think it really changed their opinion on who they were voting for.
Well, because especially if the calls weren't, like if it wasn't.
I have always loved politics. Politics has always been my baseball. I love the competition, I love the ideas, I love the brilliance, the pomposity, and the idiocy of some of the great characters that practice the art. And I have always believed it's an art worth practicing. Now, I understand, in Canadian politics, the bar is very low. Let's face it, you've got to get on your stomach and crawl to fit under there. But there has always been a little bit of sunshine. There's always been a little bit of light. This past week, I'm not so sure. Robocalls. We now know that in the last federal election, hundreds of thousands of calls came out of Edmonton to Liberal and NDP voters in 18 different ridings, claiming they were calling from Elections Canada, lying, sending people to voting booths that didn't exist. And what's really freaking me out is that I'm not angry, which is a very bad sign because anger is my cardio. I think I may be disappointed. Either that or I'm having a stroke. Now, I understand in politics there have always been dirty tricks. But this is not some drunks tearing down some posters. This is not even a negative ad campaign. This is big money and technology targeting people who want to vote and trying to physically stop them. We can't have this. You put 10 Canadians in a room, they'll disagree on 10 things. Fine, but we have always agreed that voting is a fundamental right. This is not a left or a right thing. This is just a thing. If we don't believe in that, what else do we have to believe in? If stopping people who want to vote from doing so becomes the new normal, we will have hit a new low in the sewer that is Canadian politics. Keep this up, we'll need a snorkel to get under that bar. Any deeper, we all drown.
What we have essentially
Okay,
here.
you bring me up to speed,
Especially
sir.
number 19 and 20.
What we got here is we've already established in class wrong.
Sorry?
There is wrong here.
Okay, there is wrong. Okay,
Right, we've established this in class.
this is being established.
Yeah, by law. So we have false allegation made by Stephen Harper that calls are coming from a company in North Dakota called Rack 9, but that company is also a company based out of Edmonton.
Yeah.
We have a fact here that
They
says
didn't release the payments, though, did they?
undeferred payments to this company.
Ah, you guys are on top of things. Good
Yeah.
stuff, good stuff.
This part here kind of refutes that conservative guy who's like, we don't have access to the liberal voting list.
Yeah.
This right here, the woman in North Bay, she received 2 calls. One to ask her who she intended to vote for, and a second to inform her that the polling station has changed such that the calls have been easily established she was a liberal voter, and then the second call.
But you're looking at an isolated incident.
Okay,
We gotta look at the big picture. Now,
that's what I'm trying to do.
Overall-
You're supposed to give me the other side of the picture.
Well,
you better do a good job.
not a single voter claims to have been prevented from voting. In fact, there was a higher.
Where is this from?
This is from the CBC, and a higher voter turnout actually occurred. So, I don't think this is a question of re-election.
A higher voter turnout.
Well, we raised the voter turnout by 2% from 51 to 61.
2008.
Yeah, that's right. And there's been a lot of incidents where people have been upset, of course, because they haven't been able to, reach their voting stations originally, but that didn't prevent them from making the vote. Well, it is inconvenient, yes, but to totally bar someone from voting, I think that's another.
Let me ask you this. If we have wrongdoing,
Yes.
we've established there was a wrongdoing, stop.
Yes.
And it's related to the fundamental
Well, I just think
ideal of
principle
of democracy.
I don't
So whether or not it affected your way to vote or not, should that matter?
I don't want us to mob rush this. I think we need to calculate the approach and take it piece by piece. So that's why I'm saying, let's look at the big picture first. Has everyone been able to vote yes? Is this camera making me look fat? 30%. Okay, here we go. So let's look at the second.
But is that information even valuable? Because you have to answer that question before you determine.
I was told that they set up fake polls to make them believe that they
But you need to be verified, like through Elections Canada. I don't know if that. back to the first question. Just because it didn't affect people, it's illegal by law to make that call in an attempt to alter their vote.
Okay, fine, it could be illegal, but you need to be careful on where the blame is being placed at. Are we placing it on what we've reported?
That's what I need to know,
Okay.
because this doesn't tell me that.
We've traced the calls to Pierre Poutine with the throwaway cell phone. That's by CTV. So we've linked it to one individual whose identity is just through this persona, Pierre Poutine. So we don't even have a party affiliation.
So the issue at hand here is whether or not the facts support or refute having a new election. The principle, one of the fundamental principles of democracy is that everybody has the right to vote and everybody goes to vote without being interfered with by any sort of outside power. The facts that we have demonstrated here that have come from this side of the room have been that even though there were allegations and all these complaints, all these people have complained about having these calls, none of them have said that they weren't actually able to vote. Facts on this side of the room is we have evidence of an attempt by the Harper government to distance themselves from this issue. We have these calls that all come in. We have transcript of the calls that have clearly have endeavored to prevent an elector from voting. And as a conclusion to the original question, I have to say that even though no one was actually affected and they actually did get to vote, it still tampered with our ability to vote, and it was an attempt by an outside power to try and stop us from voting the way that we wanted to vote. And all leads point to that outside power being the conservative government. Since this is a editorial or column that we're writing today, we have to come up with a conclusion. The facts seem to point to that conclusion, and that's all I have to say.
So we are going to have a vote.
We're going to vote for an election because our fundamental principle of democracy has been tampered with. All the facts.
We are going to elections.
We're going to election. Snap. Because we've been blitzed.
We've all made a serious mistake. I resign. I'm out.
I'll take the payroll.
Oh, not my severance package.
So what do we think? Owner?